Hey everybody, it's Pastor Vern for October 27th, 2020. It's a Tuesday as we continue on with our study of the Ten Commandments. We are to number 8 today. Uh, we are in the second half of the commandments, more about how we relate to one another. And so this one is thou shalt not steal. Now, seems pretty obvious what we're talking about here, that you're not supposed to take other people's stuff that you haven't earned or bought or have a right to. That seems to be pretty simple, and it's always been a problem down through history as people will take liberties with other people's property. But there are some sidebars, like there is to everything in the scriptures. There's a little deeper interpretation of what's going on. There was some discussion at the time years ago about this particular word. If you are in desperate need, is it still stealing? If you if you think you're owed it, is it still stealing? Those are kind of hard questions when they're thrown up into the situational ethics idea of this commandment. I don't know if there was any resolution to that or not. The Bible just describes it as pretty much as taking someone else's property without permission and without anything that would allow it to be considered yours. But there's something deeper here. There's really is. When God put this commandment down, it was not only so that people got along with each other and respected each other's property, but also it was a trust issue with God. Yeah, a trust issue with God. God wants us to trust that He will supply our needs and that in the way that He sees fitting. Now, sometimes we struggle with that. We wonder why other people have stuff that we don't have. Sometimes we wonder why people seem to have stuff that don't seem to put a lot of effort out to get it. Sometimes we wonder why people have stuff beyond what they truly need. And then does that make it fair game? Well, not if we are holding to the theory that God supplies our needs, that we need to be in prayer, that we need to be in communication with God about those things that are especially basic in our lives. Remember, when we're talking about the scenario of the Ten Commandments coming down, you had a community that was very interlocked with taking care of itself and each other. It was a community where they really had nothing too much extra, whatever they could carry out of Egypt. With them. God was providing them with food and water in the desert through manna and through unusual sources of water, such as Moses tapping on a rock. But there were some things that people took that was coveted. In fact, we have a story in the Old Testament about people who were asked to share a portion of their gold with the community. They lied about not having any gold, and then they were punished by God. So there was some possessions that were unique that people might have coveted and might have wanted. And we're going to talk about coveting later on. But really what God sees here is a trust issue between you and God. Will He supply your needs? Will you have those basic things that humans need in order to survive and even to thrive? We've got a little bit of a movement in our society now, the minimalist movement. Where people are kind of getting a different philosophy about stuff. We see this move towards tiny houses, and of course, some of this is economic, of course. Tiny houses, we have a group of people who tend to live with as little material things as possible. Some of them have some ideas about economics. Some of them have ideas about the Earth's resources. Some of them have ideas about just not cluttering their lives with things that take them away from relationships, both human and spiritual. And so there's some grounds to that too. But really, what we need to consider here is that God has told us over and over again in the scriptures that He will supply our needs. Now, I know people starve that have those problems, and then people are sometimes cold, and sometimes those things happen. And I can't explain that to you completely, except for the fact that I know that God has given us this promise that if we rely on Him, He will supply our needs. Now, is that part of the issue there? I guess that's a part of a deeper discussion that we could have sometime. But for as far as the commandments goes, and as far as our hearts should be, we should be trusting God and not having to take someone else's stuff to fulfill what we think our needs are. All right. Well, let's take good care of yourselves. Watch out for others the best you can, and be safe. Talk to you later.